We're getting older now, but we all remember the video games that mean the most to us. From Earthbound to Zelda and everything in between. Join me, Metroid's Primed, as I take you on a journey to show you the video games that changed my life. Hey guys, welcome back for part 2 of the Metroid Series Retrospective. Today we're going to be going over the Game Boy Advance series of Metroid games. In 2002, Nintendo's R&D 1 released what is one of my favorite Metroid games of all time, and that's Metroid Fusion for the Game Boy Advance. Chronologically, Metroid Fusion takes place last in the Metroid universe. Metroid Fusion's story first starts off with Samus Aran going to the planet SR388 surface with a group of scientists. The purpose of them being there is to study the life forms on planet SR388 after the eradication of the Metroids in Metroid 2 Return to Samus. And what the scientists didn't know at the time is that the Metroid species fed on a specific parasite known as the X parasite. And with the entire Metroid species being eradicated in Metroid 2 Return to Samus, basically the X parasites have run rampant on planet SR388. And while on the planet's surface, Samus is actually infected by an X parasite. And upon returning to the science station, Samus wrecks her ship, and the scientists recover her body and are doing surgery to try and remove the X parasite from her body when they actually find that the X parasite has grafted itself to Samus Aran's nervous system. They use a Metroid DNA sample recovered from the Metroid that you saved in Metroid 2 Return to Samus to actually remove the X parasite. But at this point, a lot of the damage is done to Samus, and part of her suit is actually fused to her body, hence the name Metroid Fusion. In Metroid Fusion, the main enemy is the X parasite. After infecting Samus, the X parasite mimics her appearance and actually picks up some of the pieces of her armor removed during the surgery. After the X parasite picks up Samus' power suit, it is known as the SAS, Samus Aran X. And the SAS hunts Samus throughout the game. And it provides an interesting aspect of the gameplay because you're actually trying to hide from the SAS and outrun it until you're actually powerful enough to fight it. And that point comes at the end of the game. And as soon as you defeat the SAS in true Metroid fashion, the space station actually starts self-destruct mode. And you have a certain amount of time to get out before the space station explodes. Now, right as you're about to leave, you come face to face with an Omega Metroid. The Metroid itself wounds you, you're knocked down, and the SAS jumps in and starts trying to kill the Metroid because, after all, the Metroids and the X parasites are arch enemies. The Mega Metroid kills the X parasite, and you're able to absorb its power, finally get your Ice Beam back, and you're able to defeat the Mega Metroid. And since this game was developed by Nintendo's R&D 1, the same people who brought you Super Metroid, you get a lot of the same feel, but a more updated version of it. And that was much to the delight of Metroid fans everywhere. This game is unlike anything else in the Metroid universe. It's an interesting game, interesting gameplay, definitely one of my favorites. One of my favorites in the entire series. So check out Metroid Fusion if you haven't done so yet. Now, 2004 was a great year for Metroid fans. Not only did you get a re-release of the game that started it all, Metroid, you got a remake of that game on the Game Boy Advance. Metroid Zero Mission was also developed by Nintendo's R&D 1, and it would be one of the last games to be released from the development team. Metroid Zero Mission is basically a retelling of the original Metroid story. What the developers wanted to do with Metroid Zero Mission is basically take the original great story from Metroid and give it a Super Metroid facelift and get that great gameplay that you had in Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion and basically update the original game with it, because if you went back and played the original Metroid game, it did feel very dated. So basically what they were doing was bringing the Metroid universe to a whole new audience. The gameplay was great in Metroid Zero Mission. Basically they used the same engine that they did in Metroid Fusion and brought you the original story. And in Metroid Zero Mission they actually added some brand new levels for the game. In the original story, after you kill Mother Brain, you escape the planet, that's the end of it. But in Metroid Zero Mission, after you escape the planet, the space pirates actually shoot your ship down, you crash back on planet Zebes, and then there's a couple more levels after that. Ultimately fighting a robotic version of Ridley. And like I was saying, the gameplay is great in this. It feels like you're playing a Metroid Fusion or Super Metroid, but with that original Metroid story. It actually sold very well, it got good reviews, and it became canon in the Metroid universe. Metroid Zero Mission was generally well received by critics, and it was a wonderful swan song from Nintendo's R&D 1 for the Metroid series. Alright guys, if you liked the video, please hit thumbs up down below. And please leave your comments down below. I'd love to hear what your favorite game is in the Metroid series, and just hear what you think about the retrospective altogether. And coming soon will be part 3 of the Metroid Series Retrospective, where we will be talking about one of my favorite parts of the Metroid universe, and that is the Metroid Prime series. And as always guys, we'll see you next time.